Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation of Math Statistics. We are Group 12 who talk about Đồng Nai. My team has 3 people, Nguyễn Thị Thùy Linh, Vũ Kim Minh, and Phạm Mai Phương. Đồng Nai is a province in the southeast region of Vietnam, located east and northeast of Ho Chi Minh City. So now, let's move to the weakening link between income, region, and house prices in Đồng Nai 2018-2020. In this video, we have 4 parts. First is introduction and research questions. Secondly, transition in Đồng Nai's housing market. Thirdly, what caused the weakening link between income, region, and house prices in Đồng Nai. And the last, conclusion and policy implications. First, introduction and research questions. In this video today, we will talk about the growing housing access inequality in Đồng Nai, which is evident in the widening wealth gap. Housing expenditure is identified as a key indicator of living standards and economic security, while real estate values have traditionally been strongly shaped by both personal income and regional location. The core focus of this research, however, is to investigate the decoupling phenomenon, the weakening link between income, region, and house value, by comparing the market dynamics before and after the COVID-19 pandemic. The objective is to quantify these market shifts into Đồng Nai and understand the implication for existing inequality. And in this topic, we have 2 main questions. First, does any increase in income per capita have a positive and statistically significant impact on predicted house value in Đồng Nai? And the last, after controlling for income, does living in an urban area lead to a higher house value? And how did this premium change between 2018 and 2020?
Now, let's move on to the part 2, transitions in Đồng Nai housing market in the 2018 and 2020. Now, look at how income per head in Đồng Nai changed between the 2018 and 2020. This table compares the mean, median, and the range of income and house value over the 2 years. As we can see, the average income per person increased significantly from about 69.654 thousand Vietnam dong in the 2018 to the 123.971 thousand Vietnam dong in the 2020. That's a strong growth of roughly 78% in just 2 years. This indicates that the local economic condition improved notably during this period. On this slide, I would like to represent the transitions in the predicted house value in Đồng Nai province from the 2018 and 20 to the 2020. As shown in the picture, we have the 2 main variables, income per head and house value. Similarly, the predicted mean house value rose significantly from about 1 million thousand Vietnam dong in the 2018 to about 2 million thousand Vietnam dong in the 2020. That is a substantial increase of 74%, indicating a booming property market in Đồng Nai. In conclusion, this demonstrates that the wealth and high-value property are concentrated in a small number of administrative units. Now, let's study the distribution of predicted house value in the 2018 and 2020. First, we study the distribution by regions, urban and rural areas in 2018 and 2020. The mean predicted house value in the urban areas were approximate higher than rural areas. As we can see in the slide, in urban areas, it were nearly 2 million Vietnamese dong, but in the rural areas, it were about the 100,000 Vietnamese dong. The mean difference is about the 1 million Vietnam dong. Next, in the 2020, the mean of urban house value were still significantly greater than rural values. In the urban areas, it were about the 2.5 million Vietnamese dong, but in the rural areas, it were nearly only nearly 1.7 uh, million Vietnamese dongs. The mean difference were lower than in the 2018 it were about the 8 800 Vietnamese dong. Last, we studied the relationship between the income and predicted house value in the 2018 and 2020. The impact of income in the 2018, one unit increase in the income per person was associated with a 9.32 million Vietnamese dong increase in the predicted house value. But in the 2020, the coefficient sharply declined to the above the 4 point, 4 point, about 4 million Vietnam dong. And next, the impact of regions. Urban local consistent command a price premium. In the 2018, the premiums were about briefly approximately uh, 800 897,000 Vietnam dong. But in the 2020, the premium saw a slight decrease in the 2020, standing at the 800,000 Vietnam dong. Therefore, a significant weakening of the relationship between the local income and property price.
So we have just established the central finding. The strong statistical link between local income and house prices collapsed dramatically in 2020. This means our traditional economic fundamentals no longer govern the housing market. Now we move to the crucial question. What caused the weakening link between income, region, and house prices in Dong Nai 2018 to 2020? Let's now summarize the structural shift by looking at the four key changes observed in the Dong Nai housing market after 2020. The first change is that housing prices kept increasing, but no longer matched local income growth. This is the very definition of the decoupling phenomenon. Local income was growing well, but property prices were inflating much faster, making the housing increasingly unaffordable for local residents. Secondly, the premium associated with urban areas, also called the urban premium, is narrowed slightly from 897,000 BND in 2018 to 800,000 BND in 2020. This suggests that investors is seeking higher returns or larger spaces and post-pandemic expanded into suburban areas. The third and most critical shift in what was driving the market. The markets were clearly driven by speculation and not local affordability. This highlights the dominance of external factors like capital flow and financial leverage over fundamental local demand. And finally, all these factors lead to a major consequence. The traditional economic balance between income and house price value was disrupted. The structural link between where people live, how much they earn, and the value of their property was fundamentally broken by this external macro shock. And based on our discussion and analysis, this sudden structural change is interpreted as the direct consequence of an exogenous macro shock. Specifically, the global response to the COVID 19 pandemic. This is the core about economic interpretation. The global flights of capital seeking access safe havens coupled with loose monetary policy worldwide and drove large-scale speculative funds into emerging property markets like Dong Nai. And this influx of external capital directly disrupted the standard econometric linkage we observed in 2018 and leading to the collapse of our model explanatory power. Let's now look closely at the impact on local income. This slide is clearly visualizes the change in the income effect. Our analysis shows a significant drop in this coefficient. This decreased by more than 50% between 2018 and 2020. This sharp decline is key evidence of the decoupling of property prices from local affordability, and essentially, the price of a house became significantly less linked to the income of the local residents. This suggests that the increase in house values was mainly driven by speculation and financial leverage from outside investors, rather than the purchasing power of the Dong Nai community. And finally, let's look at the impacts on the regional effect. The urban premium, the extra value of house in urban areas, is decreased slightly from 897,000 VND to 800,000 VND in 2020. This marginal reduction suggests two trends. Post-pandemic or in pandemic search for larger living spaces in rural area. A slight dispersion of investment capital into previously less favored suburban location. And overall, despite this slight narrowing, the process of property valuation largely became independent of local income in 2020, confirming the dominance of external financial factor.
Let's turn to the conclusion and policy implications. The analysts reveal a significant structural shift in the housing market between 2018 pre-shock and 2020 post-shock, leading to a clear decoupling between property prices and local affordability. The model explanatory power dramatically fell from 24.1% to mere 8.8%. This decline is largely attributable to the weakening of the income effect, which saw its influence drop by over 50%. Consequently, the primary valuation driver shifted away from local purchasing power and fundamental demand in 2018 towards being dominated by speculative capital and external financial factors in 2020. While the urban premium, the added value for properties in urban areas, remained persistent, it was slightly reduced from 897,000 VND to 800,000 VND. In essence, the market transition was marked by a fundamental move from being locally driven and income sensitive to being financially driven and less predictable. The study successfully confirmed two key hypotheses regarding the driver of property values, holding true for both the pre-shock and post-shock periods. Firstly, the income effect hypothesis was confirmed. Income per capita consistently shows a positive and significant correlation with property values. This means that higher income remains fundamentally linked to higher house prices. Secondly, the regional effect hypothesis was also confirmed. The urban premium remained a robust and stable factor, confirming that properties located in urban areas consistently command significantly higher values compared to their rural counterparts, regardless of the observed market decoupling. As you can see, there is a significant decoupling shift occur, moving market valuation away from local income. Next is enduring fundamentals like the income effect and urban premium persist but are no longer the dominant drivers. And the last is the new market is governed by external finance, driven by speculative capital and macro shock, not local economics. To restore market stability, 3 key measures are recommended. First, enhance financial transparency by enforcing disclosure rules on real estate transactions to identify speculative flows. Second, apply target credit controls such as stricter loan-to-value ratio for multiple property buyers. And thirdly, prioritize local affordability and linking property taxation or urban planning to residents' income level rather than asset maximization. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for your watching.